I did my first ever real low buy this past January. And one of the things I was curious about is if I would have rebound spending. Like, would I the following month then just end up spending way more on all of the stuff I hadn't bought in January? So I thought I would do a little experiment. I already track my spending down to the penny every month anyway. So I already had the figures to easily compare my February spending, see what it looked like against my usual spend. And I wanted to share the results with you all to help you inform your own decisions around doing a low buy or a no buy challenge. They seem to be all the rage right now. I think they're so common in 2025. I've seen so much content about them. So this should give you a little bit more insight and hopefully help you make a decision around if this is actually a challenge you want to try or not. Now you can go back and watch my videos about doing the low buy January. I have a few that I will link in the description, but the TLDR is that by doing my low buy in January, I was able to save about $1,500, which blew my mind. I don't think of myself as a particularly huge shopper, but I definitely do love my convenience expenses. Like, I do love spending on takeout and things like that. So just by paring down some of that spending and trying to intentionally bring down my grocery bill, I saved $1,500, which is wild. So I was so pleased with the outcome of my low buy January. I thought it was so worth it. And I also really loved just how mindful it made me of my consumption. I was doing everything I could to use up every little last bit of food I had. Like, I was scouring my fridge and freezer and like finding ways of using up like scrap veggies, making stock, making soup. So all in all, like, the low buy January was just like wins all around. I think it has made me a much more mindful consumer. And so I was really curious how February would go, because I was like, this can go one of two ways, right? And I think depending on who you are and your personality type and all of those things, like, it really can go one of two ways. One, you finish your challenge and you completely rebel. You go back to your previous habits, like, with a vengeance. And now you're making up for lost time and going, I'm going to order out even more. I'm going to spend even more on entertainment, books, clothing, beauty, whatever, all of the things that you felt you were deprived from. Or the low buy or no buy is actually a learning experience, and your habits and beliefs and behaviors actually shift over the course of the challenge. And so when you're finished it, perhaps your spending doesn't go back to normal. Perhaps it even actually continues to stay lower. And it's interesting, like, I could see myself actually going both ways. I've talked about this in previous videos. Like, I'm not really someone who does well with restriction. So even the thought of doing a no buy for me is just not real. I just don't think it's for me. I think I might end up then doing the thing where I act out after and I spend way more. I feel like doing a low buy was the perfect balance for me. And so I'm going to run through my budget for February. We're going to go through category by category, and I'm going to talk about whether my spending in that category went up once I finished the low buy challenge. So I have my tracking spreadsheet here in front of me. If you see me looking down, that is what I'm looking towards. Now, what I'm actually comparing is my average spend in these categories for all of 2024. And if you want a full deep dive into my 2024 spending, I made a whole video on that, like a 2024 spending wrap. I will link that. Go back and watch it. I spent way more than I even thought, and that's as someone who tracks their spending. So we have all of our basic essential categories. So I have like rent, insurance, utilities, internet, cell phone. Those don't really change much month to month. My average for car, gas, and parking in 2024 was $581 a month. That's kind of crazy. Now, I did have a car payment for some of 2024, so that is bringing it up. But my car spending in this month of February was $214.37. That was actually less than what I spent in January, so go figure. I didn't expect car expenses would change all that much once I finished my low buy. Like, it's just, I fill it up with gas when I need to fill it up with gas. In terms of Uber, I spent $0 this month. So no rebellious spending in that category either. That's a continuation from January. I also spent $0 on Uber in January. Public transit was the same. Public transit also stayed at $0. I am definitely going to need to top up my Presto card next month. Okay, now household. This is where we start to get into the good stuff. My average household spend in 2024 was about $225 a month. That includes all household essentials like cleaning supplies, but can also include things like decor, furniture, etc. How much did I spend in the month of February? I spent $38.37. Now, I thought this was fascinating because I was absolutely expecting some rebellious spend here. Like, I really wanted throw cushions for my futon. I really wanted to get a couple new potted plants. So, there were definitely some little household things that I wanted. And there's also some things I need for my kitchen. And apparently, I didn't buy any of those things in February, which is interesting. That didn't actually really occur to me until right now. But I think just because from January, I was just so used to not like adding things to my Amazon cart. I was so used to not like, going on Sur La Table or going to Wayfair or Boucle or whatever. Like am kind of used to online shopping and perusing those sites and slowly adding things to my cart and thinking about them because I just wasn't really doing that in January, even though there are things I've actually identified that I want for my house. I just didn't buy any of them. I think just truly because I've just been out of that mindset. And now that I've waited so long at this point, I'm like, like, do I really need, like, are they really going to make me that much happier? And I might slowly add some of those things to my home over the next few months. So I feel like the low buy has actually been really good for pausing my spending in things like the household category. Okay, this is a good one. Health and wellness. My average in 2024 was $47 a month. In February, it was $316 that I spent on health and wellness. That's kind of wild. I actually didn't process that it was that high. Most of that was spent on, about half of that, $150 was spent on vitamins and supplements, but also a good chunk of it was ordering dumbbells. I paid $75 to order some dumbbells. This is a purchase I've been thinking about for a while. I've thought about if I'm going to go back and get a gym membership. I just don't think I am, but I really like lifting weights and I want to be able to lift a bit heavier at home. I didn't need anything crazy. I just need to be able to go past like the 5 pound weights and be able to have like some 15 and 20 pound dumbbells at home. And then the rest of it was on medications, a whole host of medications. And I also finally got my Gardasil shot, and I should have gotten this ages ago, but I never had insurance that would cover it. And if you are an adult woman, the government won't pay for it. I haven't had $600 to pay for these shots, and now I finally have insurance that will cover it. So I am trying to be responsible and get my vaccinations. So health spending was super high. Again, I don't consider that rebound spending though. I think it was just unusually high. Like I think that happens sometimes. Like I'm not going to have to buy supplements for months and months on end. I have my dumbbells, I have my walking pad. Like I actually feel really set up on health and wellness for the next little while. So that is super exciting. Okay, groceries. I went absolutely crazy. My average grocery spend in 2024 was $496 a month. And in February, in a short month, I spent $689. So, what happened there? Some of that was just my poor planning. Like a HelloFresh box went through that I did not plan for. That was like $70. And I literally gave it away to my sister because I was like, I already have other food. Like, I can't eat this. So, I gave it away, but that was like $70 that I just straight up like didn't need to spend. So, this would have been more like $600 if not for that. But I will also say February was a terrible weather month. Getting food in the month of February was kind of chaotic. I felt very out of my routine. And so I had a couple big grocery shops during those snowstorms where I was also like really trying to stock up on things. And I think I also just ran out of a lot of stuff at once. Like you just sometimes hit times where you're like, ugh, I've run out of spices and olive oil and butter and whatever all at once. And then you're like, oh my God, that's going to be like $1 million. Yeah, very that. I also think too, I'm making some changes to my diet right now, and I think I'm going to have to try going dairy free, which if you are someone who is like gluten free, dairy free, whatever, vegan, then you know that alternative products can also cost quite a bit. And so that is why my groceries went way up. I actually don't think it's too much rebound spending, maybe a little bit. Like I did buy some bubbly water. I did buy a few more snacks than usual. Like I bought a little thing of mini eggs because it's like coming up to Easter soon. So definitely like a little bit of just like, ooh, I can like buy stuff again. I think that was definitely part of it. But is that why I spent $700 on groceries? No, not entirely. I just think it happened to be like a higher spend month. Okay, this is juicy. Let's talk about restaurants. My average spending on restaurants in 2024 was $334 a month. That figure still blows my mind. Again, as someone who mistakenly thinks that I don't spend that much on eating out. Okay. I'm very happy to report that in February I spent $148. That spending didn't go up at all, and in fact it stayed way lower than usual. And like my sister was here for the whole first week plus of February. And so we were going out and doing more things than usual. We were like Uber eating food more, and we were like trading off, so we would often just like take turns grabbing the bill. And so that was part of it, but like yeah, I $148 for the month. Like that's awesome. I think that is one of those categories where actually doing the low buy shifted my mindset, where it got me back into the place of like cooking, meal prepping, and also the snowstorm made it really hard to order things. And so I think I was just like, I'm not going to make someone drive me like, chicken tenders in a snowstorm. I'm not doing that. So I think that also probably helped keep it lower. Okay, alcohol and bars. The average for that was $265 in 2024 for a month, and that was $244 in February. So a little bit lower than my average 2024 spend. Not by much, but hey, it's a little lower. I'll take it, especially again because I had my sister in town and we were just like going out and doing stuff. So I think there could have been potential to spend quite a bit more, but we didn't. It was just kind of like an average month, which is still very high. And I know that. And that's something I need to think about for the rest of 2025. Coffee, I spent $0 in February on coffee. My average in 2024 was $9 a month. Coffee is not a big category for me, so it's not like a particular accomplishment. All right, now we are moving on to toiletries and cosmetics, which my average monthly spend in 2024 is $80 a month. My spend in February was $58, which I think is fantastic because these truly were all toiletries. I needed a bunch of stuff at once. I needed like toothpaste, floss threaders. My beauty spending remains at zero. I am working really hard to use up things I already own, and I am focusing on really not spending money on beauty, makeup, skincare. So that is continuing. That I am still going strong. In 2024, my average monthly spend on personal care was $19 a month. That's to cover anything like haircuts, getting my nails done, etc. And that category was $0 in February. So I didn't rush out to the spa or the salon once my low buy was done. That's not too surprising for me. I feel like those are consumption behaviors that really changed for me during the pandemic and never really went back. Like I still get a haircut a couple times a year. I'm probably due for one now. It's like kind of scraggly, but I really moved away from getting my nails done regularly. I don't really get facials or anything. I don't really do med spa. I don't do any Botox or beauty procedures. So yeah, that's just something that changed for me after 2020 and never really reverted back. My average clothing spend in 2024 was about $72 a month. My clothing spend in February was $42.36. That is my first article of clothing purchased during the year so far, and I bought it on Poshmark. So I bought it used. I'm really trying to decrease my footprint with clothing, trying to thrift, trying to buy used as much as possible. It's great in terms of the price, but it's more for like a sustainability thing for me than it is about the actual cost. That was to replace one specific pair of jeans. It was really intentional. I don't think I had any like rebound spending in the clothing category. Now, interestingly, in February, entertainment and shopping were both zero, like they were in January. So I think this is another example where I'm just doing the low buy has really changed my mindset. And I'm trying really hard to not buy books in 2025. So I've been going to the library. I've been reading a ton. I'm just reading library books. I'm reading books I already own, getting books at my free little libraries in the neighborhood. I'm using streaming services that I already have. I just finished a Game of Thrones rewatch. So I am still, getting enjoyment out of things and enjoying entertainment, but I'm just not feeling the need to spend money on it. And also with my siblings, like I said, we often trade off on expenses, and my siblings have very kindly covered a couple expenses for me in the entertainment category, like a comedy show, like a concert. And then I cover them when it comes to like drinks or grabbing dinner or something like that. Like I will treat them. But full disclosure, like that is also part of why my entertainment category has remained zero. And also it's winter in Canada. Like that entertainment will go up eventually. There's a bunch of fun things I want to do this summer, but for now, $0. And shopping, $0. Again, I just doing the low buy, I was like, there's nothing I need. Like, are there a few little things that I kind of want or that might make my house a little cuter or make my life a bit easier? Sure. But there is nothing I actually need. And so I think doing the low buy in January was like such a good reset, and it really has actually changed my mindset. Now, gifts and travel were extremely high, but that was just because I'm putting a bunch of money into a sinking fund for travel and gifts. And I used my work bonus to cover that. But yeah, I did use a portion of it to put in like a travel and gifts sinking fund. So those were super high, but like not because I did any travel or gifting this month. So like, I don't even know if those are fair to talk about. Charity, my average in 2024 was $49 a month. In February, I spent $307. And I am very happy with that because that is something that after my 2024 spending wrapped, I was like, wow, I only give $50 a month to charity. That is not enough. For someone who makes what I do and is in the position I'm in, I know that not everyone can do that, but I am absolutely in a position where I felt that I should be giving more. And I'm really happy that this month that I was able to bring that up quite a bit. So yay, that's a good one. That was very intentional planned spending. Subscriptions were really high this month. My average in 2024 was $73 a month. And I spent $132.87 in February. That was just because I paid for my year of Spotify. So that's why that was super inflated. But again, that was planned spending and very intentional. And it actually brings down my overall cost throughout the year. That is one of the ways that I brought down my subscription spending on an annual basis. So I feel good about that. And then the final category, miscellaneous. The average in 2024 was $52 a month. And in February, I spent $36.31. I don't even know what I spent that on. I feel like it was like probably random stuff at the corner store because of all the snow. So it was probably just like me running out and grabbing some snacks and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. And like I bought like a Perrier at a gas station. And like, so it's really just like little odds and ends like that. So in conclusion, did I just end up spending more after my low spend month? No, not at all. Quite the opposite. In fact, I think for most of these categories, they actually remained at like zero spend or very low spend. A lot of my spending was very intentional. It was for bare bones essentials, or it was for very intentionally planned purchases, like buying that one pair of jeans to replace something that I needed. A lot of the spending was in categories like health and wellness, which I can always feel really good about. I really don't feel like I had any rebound spending like at all, except maybe a tiny little bit in groceries. And that's like looking it over, I think that's really it. So overall for me, I think the low buy was super worth it because I was able to save that $1,500 in January that I otherwise would not have been able to save. And it's not like I just went and spent $1,500 extra dollars in February to compensate. Not at all, quite the opposite. But I think it's also really important to know yourself and know if you are the kind of person who is going to like engage in that sort of like rebellious spending when you're done. And if that is the case, then I would still really caution you to think about whether doing a no buy or a low buy is even right for you. Like it's not for everyone. Maybe you're just the kind of person who needs to like slowly get into budgeting and just like track your spending. And maybe it's even just a couple months of doing that to build some awareness around your habits and to actually realize how much you're spending. Because if you are someone who is not currently budgeting in any way, I really don't think most people have any idea how much they spend. And I think they've done a lot of research with it. It's a lot like eating. We grossly underestimate the number of calories we consume in a day. We underestimate how much money we spend. And even as someone who's been tracking their spending for 8 years, I still do this. I'm like, oh, I probably only spend a couple $100s a month on restaurants. And then I did my 2024 spending wrapped and was like $335 a month. Excuse me. So I think if you were the kind of person who doesn't really do well with like really restrictive plans, maybe doing a no buy is not the right path for you. Maybe a low buy is the answer because that was actually a really nice sweet spot for me. And that way you can flex the rules as you need to and to make sure that they work for you and your individual situation. But maybe it's even just starting with like tracking your spending. Just because I didn't overspend after my low buy was done doesn't mean that I think it's impossible. I think that probably is a trap that a lot of people do still fall into. So I think it's just important to be aware that that is something that might happen. But for me, I think doing the low buy was super worth it. If you are doing or have done a low buy or no buy in 2025, let me know how it's going down below in the comments, or let me know how it went. I would love to hear from you and what your experiences have been. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.